For years, I was the black sheep of my family. The disgrace. The one they'd whisper about at family gatherings, their words like little daggers I could feel even from across the room. It all started when I decided to leave the family business. My father, a man who valued tradition above all else, saw it as the ultimate betrayal. He'd built his company from the ground up, and he expected me, his only son, to follow in his footsteps. But my heart wasn't in it. My dreams were bigger, different. I wanted to serve, to make a difference in a way that spreadsheets and profit margins never could. I wanted to join the military. The day I told them, the house fell silent. My mother cried. My father's face was a mask of cold fury. "You're throwing your life away," he said, his voice dangerously low. "You'll bring shame on this family. Don't come crawling back when you fail." My older sister, always the golden child, just shook her head in disappointment. They told everyone I was a lost cause, a rebel without a clue, chasing a foolish fantasy. My cousins, my aunts, my uncles, they all bought into the narrative. I was the family failure. The calls stopped, the invitations dried up. I was effectively an outcast, cut off for choosing my own path. Those first few months were the hardest. Basic training was grueling, pushing me to my physical and mental limits. Every night, exhausted in my bunk, my father's words would echo in my mind. "You'll fail." There were moments I almost believed him. I was lonely, homesick, and plagued by self-doubt. But then I'd remember why I was there. I'd look at the flag, at the faces of the men and women training alongside me, and a fire would ignite in my chest. This was my purpose. This was my new family. I wasn't just doing this for me anymore. I was doing it to prove that my dream wasn't a disgrace. It was an honor. So I poured everything I had into it. I was the first to wake up, the last to go to sleep. I studied harder, trained longer, and pushed myself beyond what I thought was possible. I graduated at the top of my class. I excelled in advanced training, specializing in strategic operations. Slowly, I started climbing the ranks. Each promotion was a small victory, a quiet rebuttal to the years of doubt. I didn't do it for them, not really. I did it for the kid who was told he was worthless. I did it for the man I wanted to become. Years passed. I saw parts of the world I'd only read about in books. I faced challenges that tested my very soul, and formed bonds with my comrades that were stronger than steel. I led teams on critical missions, where split-second decisions meant the difference between life and death. I earned medals, but more importantly, I earned the respect of my peers and my superiors. I found my place, my value, not in a boardroom, but on the front lines of service to my country. All the while there was silence from home. I sent letters, occasional emails, but the replies were sparse, cold, or non-existent. It was as if I'd ceased to exist. Then came the day it all changed. My unit was returning from a long and difficult deployment. A special homecoming ceremony was organized at the base, and high-ranking officials were scheduled to attend. It was a huge event, meant to honor our service and sacrifice. A few weeks before, my mom called. It was the first real conversation we'd had in years. She sounded hesitant. She said my father had been invited to the ceremony through a business connection, who was also a benefactor of the military foundation. He didn't know I was going to be there, let alone being honored. She asked if I would be okay with them coming. A part of me wanted to say no, to spare myself the potential pain. But a bigger part of me knew this was a moment I couldn't run from. I simply said, "They're welcome to come." The day of the ceremony was bright and sunny. The parade ground was filled with families, officials, and the media. My unit stood in perfect formation, our uniforms immaculate. I scanned the crowd, and for a second, I saw them. My father, in his expensive suit, my mother beside him, my sister looking uncomfortable. They stood near the VIP section, looking completely out of place amongst the military families holding "Welcome Home" signs. Our eyes met for a fleeting moment. I saw no recognition, no pride, just a flicker of confusion as if he was trying to place the familiar face in the soldier's uniform. My heart sank. My commanding officer began his speech. He spoke of our mission, of the challenges we overcame, of the bravery of the soldiers standing before him. Then he started talking about leadership, dedication, and service above self, and he called my name. He spoke of a critical mission, a moment where my leadership under fire had saved my entire team and ensured the success of a vital operation. He spoke of my journey from a raw recruit to a respected leader. My mind went blank. I was just doing my job. He then announced I was being awarded a Distinguished Service Medal. He pinned it on my chest, shook my hand firmly, and saluted. And then, something happened that I will never forget. The guest of honor, a 4-star general, a man who was a living legend in the military, stepped forward. He walked directly to me. The entire parade ground fell silent. He looked me in the eye, his gaze piercing and full of respect. He didn't say a word. He simply raised his hand in a slow, sharp salute. The highest honor from one of the highest-ranking officers in the entire armed forces. In that moment, everything else faded away. The years of hurt, the whispers, the feeling of being a failure. It all vanished. As I saluted back, my eyes drifted to the crowd. I saw my father. He was standing ramrod straight, his jaw slack. My sister had her hands over her mouth, and my mother was openly weeping. But this time, her tears weren't for the son she thought she'd lost, but for the man he had become. The people around them, their friends and business associates, were all looking at them, then at me, then back at them. The whispers were starting again, but this time, I knew they were different. After the ceremony was dismissed, I was surrounded by my comrades, my real family, slapping me on the back and congratulating me. Through the crowd, I saw my father making his way towards me. He looked older, smaller than I remembered. He stopped in front of me, his eyes filled with a storm of emotions I'd never seen before. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in his life, my father, the man who always had an answer, was speechless. Finally, he just reached out, not for a handshake, but to gently touch the medal on my chest. His hand was trembling. "Son," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I was wrong. I am so proud of you." That day, I didn't just come home from deployment. I came home in every sense of the word. The salute from the general was an honor, but seeing the pride in my father's eyes, finally earned on my own terms, was the true victory. My path wasn't the one they chose for me, but it was the one that made me who I am, and I wouldn't change a single thing. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like you're on the wrong path, remember that sometimes the most difficult journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.